Only a few days removed from the first episode of The Mandalorian, we have Chapter 2 dropping today. And at only 32 minutes, does the second episode of The Mandalorian keep the momentum going from earlier this week? We'll talk about that and more on today's Geek Dad Life. Alright, episode 2 is on what is now its normal release date on Friday, which will take us through right after Christmas. So about 7 more or actually 6 after this. And I was kind of shocked to see it was only 32 minutes, because I was thinking this was probably going to be like an hour long per episode show. And who knows, maybe just kind of be whatever that episode dictates it should be. But this one was much shorter than I expected. But either way, as long as the story's good, I don't think the timestamp matters. So much like this episode kept it short, let's keep this one moving with our Fave 5. Number 1, the Jawas! Yes, those lovable creatures that we were introduced to in Episode 4, A New Hope, are back in this episode of The Mandalorian, and they are still up to their scavenger hijinks, delaying the Mandalorian's ability to get off this planet and take his asset back to the client, which I'm kind of curious if that's actually going to happen. Either way, it was one of 2 big action sequences in this episode, him trying to kind of single-man ambush the Jawas, which didn't turn out too well for The Mandalorian, but overall added the humor to this episode, and it was nice to see them again. Number 2, the Mandalorian's encounter with the Trandoshans, or otherwise known as the same species as the bounty hunter Bossk. So while in episode 1 we had another IG droid, like IG-88 from Empire Strikes Back, IG-11, this time he's ambushed by the same species as the other famous bounty hunter from Empire Strikes Back, Bossk. And again, a nice little nod, and I wonder if we're going to get through the whole series of different bounty hunters that Boba Fett was with in The Empire Strikes Back. But still, a fun scene that had a lot of action with baby Yoda in tow. Number 3, Mor Ka'il, Nick Nolte's Ugnaught character. Again, another Empire Strikes Back character, so I wonder if just Jon Favreau's just going through all the different characters that were in Empire Strikes Back. But was an interesting character in Episode 1, or Chapter 1, and in Chapter 2, The Child, was even more fun. And I was kind of bummed when, I get why he wanted to stay on this planet, but I was kind of bummed that might be the end of his story. But a fun character that added a lot to these first 2 episodes. Number 4, Baby Yoda versus the Frog. I was kind of curious to see how much this Baby Yoda species was going to interact with the Mandalorian, and I'm excited that while it seemed very infant-like in the first chapter, in Chapter 2, The Child, it definitely has more of a toddler kind of approach, and seemingly is more of a possible force to be reckoned with. But I thought the little scene where he's kind of chasing around the frog and then eventually eats it, I thought was a fun little moment in this chapter. Alright, and number 5, the Baby Yoda species stopping the Mudhorn using the Force. I think there was a lot of questions in my mind, as well as the fans, is, how powerful is this baby already? And this was okay, right off the bat. Even though it's 50 years in our time, still a young yadling, and but still very much Force sensitive, and understands that it's Force sensitive, and then has some type of ability to recognize that it can use the Force to stop a very powerful animal. Also wanting to heal Boba Fett's arm, I thought was interesting. So definitely an interesting thing to see. Definitely exciting to see this Baby Yoda species use the Force in this way. And I'm also curious as to why the Mandalorian seems to be ignorant of Yoda and kind of the history of the Jedi here, because he seems to not really know much about what this little Yoda species is, or what their abilities are, or why this might be a target. So I don't know if he's playing dumb, or he honestly just doesn't know when he's talking to Ka'il about it. So we'll kind of see how that one plays out. We'll kind of see if maybe that much of the history of the Jedi has been wiped out. Either way, it was a really exciting scene, and I think a great kind of closeout here to my Fave 5 from Chapter 2, The Child. Alright, that is it for our Fave 5 and this review of chapter to the child, and not a lot happened. I think this was more of just kind of taking a chance to take a breather from the storyline. We didn't get much more in the mythology. We didn't get much more in the backstory of the Mandalorian or why he's kind of set on this task to find and return this Yoda species. But I think if you look at him as a bookend opening to the show, I thought it was still an enjoyable experience. But I think they need to make sure that it's not another 3 or 4 episodes of this kind of pace or this kind of story unveiling, or it could get really frustrating for the viewers at home. But I don't think they're going to do that. We'll see how it works next week when we get Chapter 3 next Friday on Disney+. Alright, that'll do it for this episode of Geek Dad Life. If you enjoy this show and all the others, hit subscribe, hit the like button, and hit that bell button to be notified when the latest episode of Geek Dad Life drops. Check out our other videos. We did episode 1 earlier this week, chapter 1 of The Mandalorian, so definitely check that out, as well as you can check out our Triple Force Friday video where not only did we find multiple Mandalorian toys, but we also saw the Jawa that was featured in this episode as well. Alright, until next time, hasta luego, and goodbye.